Fifth energy center is located in the throat. It governs expression, how we can express ourselves to the world. When you're having difficulty feeling that you're being heard, emotionally or otherwise, there's often a sense of some constriction in your throat. Putting your attention here, activating the correct vibration helps to relieve that constriction. The mantra for the throat chakra is hum, hum. Deep breath. The sixth energy center, which is localized between the eyes, it's considered the third eye between the eyebrows. It's responsible for insight, intuition, inner vision. The mantra for this is Sham, Sham. Deep breath. And finally, the seventh energy center, Sahaswara, the thousand-petal lotus, is located at the top of the head, at the crown of the head. And this is the universal mantra, Om. With your attention on the crown chakra, deep breath. Om. So we use these very specifically and very therapeutically. If we see people that are having unexplained infertility or difficulties with pregnancies, we have them put their attention on their reproductive chakra, and several times a day we encourage them to just use their attention and intention and the correct mantra to bring energy flowing into that area. If someone's having ulcer pain, having a lot of tension in their stomach, we have them put their attention in their solar plexus, use the correct mantra for that. If someone's grieving in their heart, having trouble getting over a loss, we have them put their attention on their heart chakra. If someone's having difficulty expressing themselves, having chronic neck pain, thyroid problems, we can often enliven that area by just attention, intention, and introducing the correct vibration. So they can be used very practically. And your clients and patients will love it. Spend 5 minutes, it'll have much more powerful effect than analyzing every event that led up to the most recent dramatic event in someone's life. Now, studies on mantra meditators have been filtering into Western medical literature since the 40s. Some really remarkable stories of scientists going to India and taking experienced yogis and putting them in airtight boxes and leaving them there for hours and having them come out and being completely normal and healthy, showing that they can slow their heart rate down to just a few beats per minute, or literally stop their breathing for minutes at a time. So what have these studies showed? They show that with just a simple repetition of a vibration, a simple mantra like Om or Lam or Ram, that you can see dramatic changes in physiological functioning. Oxygen consumption dropped 15 to 20%, which actually was deeper than that which had been described in people who go into deep sleep or in people who practice hypnotherapy. They found that the breathing rate slowed substantially, often down to 6 or 7 breaths per minute, but commonly at least several breaths per minute. It showed that the chemistry of the blood changed. Lactic acid, which is a measurement of a stress response, usually reflecting lack of oxygen, fell substantially. And skin resistance, which is another measurement of relaxation, rose substantially. So these various measurements on the physiology of meditation really were quite unique. Then a lot of information began pouring in on what happens to the EEG patterns of people who are meditating. At first, we noticed that shortly after people started meditating, they would generate continuous trains of alpha, cycles of brainwave activity between 8 and 12 cycles per second. And then it was shown that after a little while, people went into a period of theta rhythm. And theta is usually associated with drowsiness. But when people usually go through a drowsy state, they only stay there for a brief period of time, maybe a minute or so, and then they quickly move into deeper stages of sleep. But what we were seeing in people who were meditating was that they were staying in this theta state for 15, 20, 30 minutes at a time, just hovering on that borderline between wakefulness and sleeping state, and accessing those kind of dreamlike images that normally we only experience right before we wake up or right as we're falling asleep. This is what led to this description of the meditative state as a state of restful alertness. Restful because the body in many ways was at a deeper level of relaxation than we see even during sleep, but alert because the mind, the brain was functioning in a different pattern. Then people became very interested in looking at what are the relationships of brainwaves from one part of the brain to the other. So people started measuring brainwave activity in various sites around the skull and found some interesting correlations that the farther someone got into a meditation practice, the more there was this measurement of coherence. That first, the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain began to line up in a very rhythmic pattern. Normally, there's a lot of disjunction, discordance. But during meditation, it seemed like there was a synchrony, a coherence that was generated during meditation. Then as the meditation progressed, there was actually a coherence between the back part of the brain and the front part of the brain, in patterns that really had not been seen before. But yet there was this pattern of coherence in the brain, which is really quite interesting and quite phenomenal. What's so interesting is that if you read the Vedic literature, this is exactly the description of the fourth state of consciousness known as samadhi. So it has a number of benefits. It, most importantly, gets us in touch with that deepest aspect of ourself, beyond space and time. It allows us to quiet our mind, in many ways to reset our system. And we talked about the fight or flight response. We have this built-in activation response. But we also have this built-in relaxation response, this built-in restful alertness response, so that after we've expended energy, we can very naturally bring our attention back to the center point, rejuvenate the system, and allow us to once again get in touch with our creativity. It's from this perspective of silence that we actually are the most successful. I'm sure everyone, I certainly have had the experience that you cram for an examination. You have a million facts stuffed into your brain. And you sit down, and the first question throws you for a loop. It wasn't something you studied. And immediately, my mind starts racing. Uh-oh, what if the rest of the test is like this? What if I don't pass this test? The mind starts getting noisier and noisier and noisier. And yet, all you need to do is bring the mind to a quiet place, and suddenly information emerges. Our minds work best from this platform of quietness. Meditation is really one of the most profound ways to achieve that state. And simultaneously, it creates this quietness in the body. Now, it's not complicated. Certainly, we encourage people to learn a mantra meditation technique because it brings the signal of attention to the most internal, subtle level that we can. But we can do it easily through other techniques. So let's go ahead and just to remind everyone, we'll go through a breathing awareness meditation technique. So let's do it together. Everyone just sitting comfortably. So when you're sitting comfortably, get in the habit of sitting with your back supported, your feet on the ground, your hands in some comfortable position, but not with your head supported. We're so conditioned that when we rest our head back on something to fall asleep that we can very quickly bypass that junction point state where we're accessing these deeper levels of our minds but maintaining awareness and maintaining alertness. Now let's just close our eyes. And I'd like you to notice that just by closing the eyes and bringing our attention inwards, doing nothing else, we feel some calmness, some relaxation.